Hi there, I'm Kellie DeMarco with another update on issues affecting Californians with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And joining me today is Carl London. He is with London and Gonzales Advocacy, which represents the Alliance for People with IDD. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly, for talking about this.
Tell me a little bit about what the Alliance is.
So the Alliance is an organization of community-based agencies around the state that serve people with IDD and their families. They provide a range of services, and the architecture of this system is based on a thing called the Lanterman Act. Years ago, this is clear back to when Ronald Reagan was governor, believe it or not, they made a deal in law where they were deciding to shut down state-run institutions that serve this population. But the deal they made, or promise, was that they would also guarantee that this population could be served in their community, live and work right alongside all of us with support, and that's what these agencies do.
So they really get together to just get the word out, help each other, because there are a lot of people that are involved with this.
Yeah, we have in the state about 360,000 people, according to the caseload estimates, of people that are classified as having some kind of intellectual or developmental disability. And they are served throughout communities around the state, supported by 21 regional centers that work with them to construct a plan that is then implemented in their own community, working with agencies like the ones that are members of the Alliance.
It's incredible the work they do. It really is. And I know that funding has been an issue for so many years, underfunding. And now we're at a point with the state budget where there's a lot of money that could be cut from these community-based programs. Talk a little bit about that and where things stand right now, what that will mean for these service providers.
Well, the governor came out with a proposal in January that was pretty reasonable. It had some small growth areas for this population. And of course, in March, the COVID-19 crisis hit. The fallout from that was a new budget proposal based on the shortfalls in revenue that we're going to see. And his proposal was to cut close to $500 million in programs and services to serve this population. I mean, literally, that kind of cut would mean the difference between life or death for some of the programs that serve this population. And there's no game plan for what we do to pick up the pieces for those people who suffer because of that. So we're at a critical crossroads. The governor has come out with a plan. The legislature, interestingly, has come up with their own version of how to solve this problem, and it involves no cuts to the service population. You can imagine which version of the budget we're supporting, but it's with good reason. I mean, this is a system that has been chronically underfunded for 2 decades, and then to come in with, a $500 million in cuts would, quite frankly, just devastate the system and all the people in it.
Is there anything that we can do, that you can do as a lobbyist to influence the outcome in this?
There are a lot of us advocates working on behalf of this community who are hustling and working hard and trying to get the word out as to the impact this would cause if we make these deep cuts. I think for people, out there generally, if you're a person who's got a family member with IDD, or you're a consumer with IDD yourself, or you know someone in that group, or you're familiar with these programs, we would urge people right now to be contacting their specific legislators as well as the governor and letting them know how important these services are to that population and keeping these people together and just letting them have a life just like the rest of us.
Yeah.
So right now, I think it's a critical time. This should be decided by June 15. So we're in a critical period here of about a week where these calls and letters and emails are very important.
For people who don't know, what are the types of services that people with disabilities rely on? What is so important and so critical for folks who aren't aware of those items?
Yeah, again, dating back to the promise we made to people back in the 70s when we passed the Lanterman Act, there's a range of services. There are services that, I guess the way I'd describe it is, imagine what you do every day yourself. Where do you live? How do you live? In the case of a person with IDD, they might need support living on their own or with roommates. Where do you work? They have work-related programs where people with IDD very successfully get up just like the rest of us every day during non-COVID times, and they go to work and they earn a paycheck. And in some instances, they need some help, some job coaching, which the state supports. In other instances, they need very little, and they do just what we all do. There are recreational programs. What do people with IDD like to do? Well, they like to do things just like us. They like to act and play. They like to go to concerts. They like to go to ball games. There are those types of supports. All of these are the kinds of programs that are at risk right now if we look at making cuts to a system that's already underfunded.
I know, Carl, you've been working tirelessly on this, and it has a really special meaning to you because you have a son with IDD.
Yeah, I try not to make that the front and center of my work in this, but he's a 23-year-old young man, and I'll tell you what's compelling and interesting to me right now is he is in the middle of all of this, transitioning into his own house. It looks pretty successful so far, but he's not doing it on his own. He's doing it with support of a local program like the ones that are members of the Alliance. And, I'm in a pretty good position. I'm pretty comfortable that no matter what happens, we're going to make this work somehow. Mm-hmm. But what you learn in this community is you're part of a bigger fabric and a bigger community. And I see people every day where that's probably just not the case. They are going to need help and help beyond, what my son might need, or in some cases less than he needs. But either way, they're going to need some help. And that's really what's at risk here. When you're involved in it at this level, you see those people day after day, week after week, and you really do get a sense of who's impacted with this kind of decision on the table.
Well, thank you for all of your help in advocating, and to these community-based programs that just work tirelessly to help this population of people. They just cannot be forgotten, and we're going to keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best when the budget comes out.
Yeah, thank you for your interest in this and continuing to tell these great stories that you've been doing. We really appreciate your help as well.
All right. Thank you, Carl. And if you'd like more information, you can visit savedisabilityservices.org.